any chance do you guys separate your cans, glass, cardboard, plastics, tires, textiles, or how about electronics? How about the reuse of biodegradable waste, such as food or garden waste? This is also considered recycling. Today, I will be discussing one of the biggest threats that the Earth is facing, the problem and battle with plastic. The consumption patterns which we dispose our products have failed us. With mandatory recycling, it will resolve our pollution and mass biodiversity loss. If we don't recycle, we face the consequences and reality of biodiversity loss, human health, and pollution. As reported by researcher Anna Cummins, a volunteer for Charles Moore Algalita Marine Research Foundation, states, "Our job now is to let the people know that plastic ocean pollution is a global problem. It is either left on the sidewalk, tossed out in freeways, or in your park, or inside the lake. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's litter. At times, they all lead to the oceans. The world uses 100 million of tons of plastic annually, but recycles less than 5%. Because of this current disposal technique method, the majority of people have adapted to, it has, according to Greenpeace, at least 267 species of seabirds and marine animals worldwide are affected by plastic marine debris. This leads for them to be digesting plastic. So, when the fishes and the birds start eating the plastic, fishes don't get hungry anymore because that's what plastic does. They just keep eating and eating, and then they don't eat anymore, so they die out of starvation. Now birds, they could either pick up bottle caps, lighters, cigarette butts, fishing nets, simply just it being trash. And later on you find them dead, and a couple of days of decomposing, you find all these items inside. This causes mass killing. According to Keener, plastic litter also clogs sewer systems, causing deadly floods, chokes animals, and contaminates fish with toxic chemicals. There's more of a danger coming from plastic than the population actually believes. Fish often eat plastic, like how I mentioned earlier. How does this affect the almighty human? Plastic litter chokes animals and contaminates fish with toxic chemicals, and it endangers humans who eat the fish. This all leads to the chain cycle of ingesting plastic. As study shows, toxic chemicals such as DDT or PCBs do not dissolve in water but can be absorbed by plastic. Plastic which then the fish consumes, and then we consume the fish, and the birds consume the fish. This led to one of the cases where the birds were eating the plastic, and eventually when they laid their eggs, when they would sit on them, the eggs would crack. So that's how there was a huge decline in the birds in the island. From the plastic in the ocean to plankton to fish, and then to humans who eat the contaminated fish, we at first won't eat plastic at hand. Like, we won't eat a plastic bag, we won't eat like a 6-pack of yolks, we won't eat that, but we do eat the fish that actually eats it. The rest, plastic bags, water bottles, disposable lighters, takeout food packages, end up in world's oceans and along shorelines, causing mass killing of species and also pollution in our oceans and land. Scientists state how across Africa, millions of plastic bags are so common that they are known as the national flower or white pollution. This clogs drains, sewer systems, and flooding, and guess what? It helps spread malaria. Why? Because these plastics hold water, and that's the breeding place for these mosquitoes. As we know, plastic takes hundreds of years to degrade, so the majority of the plastic still exists and will probably still exist in our lifetime, which is why we see plastic everywhere. It isn't going anywhere anytime soon. It will most likely be still all over in our children's lifetime, which is why environmentalists and activists have led a growing anti-plastic movement, which I'm positive you've at least heard once in your life. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. If nothing gets done and changed, and we keep adding toxics and killing off species, we will decrease our own lifetime and will die off because of the harmful effects that were and will be made by our own selves. These consumption patterns which we have been disposing our products have failed us, and by us implementing mandatory recycling, we will resolve our pollution and mass biodiversity loss and change the fate which Earth is heading towards. Another really fun fact is now you're only supposed to eat fish once a month. Why, you may ask? Because fish have mercury inside them, and it's gotten so bad that fish once a month. I know I have family that eats it every twice or 3 times a week, and I already told them to stop that. So sushi lovers, once a month, or else you're gonna get mercury in your system. Thank you. That's not so good.
So Jojo, what did you think?
That was a good speech overall. Some of her reading, like, she read it, but she kept like trying to look back at the audience, so I thought that was kind of good. I'm pretty sure she like had like her information like cited from somewhere, but I didn't hear a lot of like exactly where, like according to like this and that. But I know that like she for sure like got it from somewhere. It was a good speech though. It was kind of short, but.
Well, I heard a couple of citations. There was Greenpeace, and there was another one. Kenner, I think, was the name of the source that they gave. Yeah, when you mentioned the delivery thing at the beginning of the speech, I think you do better as you go through the presentation, depending on the notes, less and less. And I think you really want to go the other direction. Not that I want you to depend more on the notes as you're going along. It would be nice if you didn't have to depend on them. But at the beginning of the speech, especially when you're trying to establish an ethos with the audience and a relationship with them, when you have to read it, and sometimes it comes across like you're reading, it doesn't establish that relationship. Like, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm trying to connect with you, and that paper is between you and the audience, and I think that creates a little bit of a problem. You've got a lot of good information in the speech. It needs to be organized a little bit differently so that it's clearer what the argument's about. I know the subject matter is plastic, but there are a lot of different directions that you're going in, and there are a couple of things that end up in here that I'm not exactly sure fit. Like at the end, you've got this thing that you mentioned about mercury. I'm going, how is that connected to the plastic? If it's a contaminant because of the plastics, that needs to be clearer. That was the only way I could kind of get that connection, and I assume that that's probably the way it fits in there. The another piece of information that I think gets a little bit confusing is about the birds and them consuming plastic. Now, I know that there's an issue related to DDT, which is not plastic, but it is a different chemical that had this issue that you're talking about. So I think that I think that you're conflating a couple of different subjects here, and I'm not sure it's the plastic-related one.
I just have a quick comment. I did say like dumping like toxins, so that's why I was referring to like the mercury and the DDT. Like I was saying how we like also like dump and stuff, so we're just polluting this. But yeah.
And then basically it sounds at the end like your goal is to encourage mandatory recycling, and that's reasonable if that's what you want the solution to be. What we needed to have now is some information that suggests that recycling is going to solve those problems. You mentioned, for example, the problem of plastics on the African continent. What's the phrase they used? It's like they're the national flower. The national flower there. Yeah. You know, that sort of thing. I assume that my recycling here is not going to affect what's going on there. And I don't know exactly. I assume, for instance, the plastic bags that they use are so ubiquitous, and they use them for a variety of purposes. I'm not sure that there isn't recycling, but there may not be a very good disposal system also. So if mandatory recycling is the solution to this problem, then how does that affect this? The stuff that ends up in the ocean, for instance, is that coming because people aren't recycling? Is it coming because people don't dispose of things correctly, I think you need to kind of develop that argument. And that's what I'm saying here, is that all of this material is relevant. Well, like I said, I'm still a little uncertain about the DDT thing and the mercury thing, but all of this material is connected to the general subject, but it's not been organized in a way that makes your argument as coherent as it needs to be. And when you get to the solution, that feels very incomplete, like there needs to be something else there that shows this will fix the problem. So the problem is that we've got all these plastics, they do bad things in the environment, and the way to fix it is to do recycling. I think you do a good job showing that we've got plastics in the environment, that they are producing some harms, although some of the harms I think need to be developed a little bit more, and a couple of them I'm not sure are connected. And then when you get to the solution, you need the information that says this would fix this particular problem. All right, thank you.